Hello everyone. Well, my office for today is Croke Park. As you can see here, I am standing right here in the Theatre of Dreams. That is, of course, the National GAA Stadium here in Ireland. For anybody who's not familiar, just going to whirl around there now. Today I was working with FRS Recruitment, and they had a fantastic conference today that I was delightfully MC for, focusing on developing great teams in this new world of work. And I wanted to share with you some key things that came up. So we started off with Peter Cosgrove, who focuses on the future of work. And he describes culture as what happens when the boss is not in the room. He said change has never been so fast and will never be this slow again, and really invited people to think through the implications of that. He gave us this statistic that 37% of people don't have a clear start or finish to their day. And also he said not everything that counts can be counted. So he mentioned like the esprit de corps, the whole idea of osmosis, of what happens when you're in the office, and also mentoring and that sort of learning that you don't get on an online call. He said that it's important when it comes to meetings is that we prepare alone and finish together, so that people have this sense of being able to communicate into something before a meeting, contribute towards the agenda, but then decide on the outcomes together during the meeting, and that's what meetings are better spent on. He asked the question, do companies behave every day as though people are their best asset? And again, that's something to really think through. And also he said, trust arrives on foot and leaves on horseback. So from there, we went on then to a conversation all around acquiring talent. I had 4 super people on the panel. Now I've tagged everyone in this post so you can see exactly who they are. But we started off with Lynne McCormack, and Lynne came from the point of view of what are candidates saying out there in the market at the moment. And she said that despite perhaps the turbulence that maybe economists might be predicting, or that we might be talking about in the, broadly speaking, in the economy, she says 3 in 5 people are expecting that there will be more jobs available in the future. They also believe that they will be able to secure employment faster, and they are putting upward pressure on salaries. But she also said that people have taken a lot of stock of what's happened over the last couple of years, that they also want, that they want a job that represents the culture, their values, a positive outlook. And of course, if uncertainty creeps in, well, then it is quite likely that they will want to have more job security. Now, then from there, we also heard from Denis Curran from the IDA, and he was telling us all around what has been going on with foreign direct investment in Ireland. So over the past while, he said that the fastest growth has been in life sciences, followed by tech, and then followed by financial services. And he constantly drove home the idea that there is a lot of opportunity and choice for people who choose to come back to Ireland now from the point of view of their career, but also, of course, the lifestyle that they might pursue as well with their family, etc. here. He also said that there's an urban centricity to foreign direct investment trends around the world, and he said that Ireland particularly offers more broad demographic and geographic diversification in terms of our capabilities within the regions and our abilities for our regions to serve the needs of foreign direct investment as well. And he mentioned like some startling numbers: 1,700 investments, employing 250,000 people, and 55% of those are in the regions. And I really hope that I noted down my figures correctly, but they're massive numbers, and to show the really big impact of foreign direct investment, and indeed investment generally, into our areas. Then we also had Kathleen Healy, and she was talking about the importance of understanding what really motivates the people we're aiming to target. So whether they might be people that we want to come and work in our companies, whether of course it's people to come home to where we live and to work, or whether it is of course customers in general that we might want to interact with us. She said that it's really important that we think creatively about how we understand what motivates them, and to understand exactly what it is that they're looking for, and of course, most importantly of all, be able to give that to them. She also mentioned that 17% of Irish adults live abroad. That is the highest percentage of any country in the OECD. And that we need, if we are going to bring people home, is that we need to make sure that they understand some home truths. Is that it may not be as brilliant as family and friends might say that it's absolutely amazing because they want to bring us home, but it's also not as bad as maybe one might see when it comes to statistics and so on about certain aspects of cost of living and so on. Now, from there, we went on, and we had our next speaker was Professor Ian Robertson. Gave us some very practical techniques all around performance, culture, and retention. So first thing is that he gave us a breathing technique so that we can use that to be able to refocus our brains on maybe what we might be worried about or what we might have anxiety about, and how we can frame that sense of confidence within our own minds and brains, so that then we might be able to go ahead and take steps that we sometimes may not have the confidence to do. He also said the confidence is contagious, and made that point too, that it's important that when we exhibit confidence, that then can be reflected to the teams around us. He also said that he was telling us a story of where he was facing a challenge, and he said it was going to be very hard to change the external factors in the story, right? So changing people, changing the outcome, changing all those things was going to be very difficult, if not impossible. But he said what he did have complete control over was his own internal reaction to how he might handle that. And then he said, rather than thinking about this in the point of view of how will I be able to manage this, he said, imagine if I framed this in my head as a challenge, in the same way that an Olympian gets excited about going into a race or getting into the pool, etc. Imagine if you just framed this external problem by thinking, how could I change my thinking in such a way that I could handle it differently from an internal point of view, and imagine if I was excited about that challenge. He also said success is the greatest source of success. And he quoted a range of people, and with their thoughts around success, like success is doing things before you're ready. Anxiety can be your friend because it can give you that edge to be able to motivate you to go on and to overcome that challenge and be excited by it. And he also quoted a poet by saying the road only appears after its first step. He also spoke about the importance of values. He talked about the importance of values when it comes to working together. So I might value something very different to you, and if I do, and I act like it as well, of course, values can drive my behaviour. If I'm going to work with you and you have different values to me, if I don't understand them, we may not get on at all, even though we could be two very good individual contributors. So by having an understanding of what each other's values are, that can be really helpful in team dynamics, but also in resolving conflict, and simply understanding how we can work together cohesively. So he spoke about documenting what your values are and understanding why you have them, and then being hungry to understand what other people's are. And his final point was to do with team dynamics. And he said a team dynamic can be very much driven by the ability of the individual team members to read each other's emotional expressions. So how is it that I operate in a team? How can you read my emotional expressions? How can you react to that? How can I do the same with you? And how can we all work together then more cohesively, bringing values into the equation as well? Now, after that, it was really good to hear that. He was full of exercises and stories, excellent. Then we went on to another panel of 4 people, totally focusing this time on retention. So Brendan McGinty spoke about that we have people who are integrators and segregators. Integrators want to integrate work and life. They're happy to be doing emails on the side of a pitch, or maybe, answering email in the morning and dropping the kids to school, and then going back and kind of flitting between the two. And then he said we have segregators who totally want to create a difference in between. He said that it's we are at the mercy of overscheduling, and that we need to schedule time to think. Any of you that have been connected with me for the past year and a half knows that I absolutely subscribe to that, and I practice it every day as well, every working day. He spoke about proximity bias as well, is that sense of we may turn to the people who we can see or who are in the office to take opportunities or to help us solve problems. Then we had Shane O'Sullivan, who spoke about a high-performing team knows what the result is, but particularly he said what's different about high-performing teams is they understand why each other is there, and they have very good, strong personal relationships, and also they start with why. They know that they're doing something that is tying into self-transcendence on the part of the team. Then after that, we had Dr. Brian Slattery, and he said that what we need to do in teams is that we need to understand what's going on. And he said we need to ask that. We need to ask that with good questions, we need to do it systematically, and we need to do it over time to understand exactly what is going on and why people feel that way. And he spoke about the fact that when you ask people, they will tell you. He spoke about that you can acknowledge to somebody that you're listening to them by simply saying, I hear what you're saying, and of course then taking action. And then also we had Owen Lennon, who spoke about Liberty Insurance's collective decision about how do people work, where do people want to work, and deciding on how to do that with a sense of togetherness, and deciding that where people work is not linked to their performance, it's linked to their choice. Then we finished up with a conversation with Peter McKenna, Breedstack and Colin Donnery, all around the importance of the GAA when it comes to the Irish abroad, the sense of connectedness that Irish people have with the GAA, and also as well how it can be such an emotive driver when it comes to making a decision about whether people want to come home or not, and that underscores their campaign, which is Home Truths.